And now it's time for the latest exciting episode of Doz's Television Workshop.
Hello and welcome back to Doz's Television Workshop, where today we're going to be having a look at this very attractive 1950s Bush TV22 in its rather resplendent Bakelite cabinet. Now, I've got some history with this. This appeared on my website, and I actually looked it up on our live chat that happened a couple of days ago. But if you're watching this now, it was probably a month or two ago. That I actually worked on this 9 years ago to prove out a fault with a friend of mine's TV set and get a replacement transformer made for it. And I never finished it up. I've replaced a lot, if not all, of the capacitors in the set, but I never finished it off, and it's got a lot of rotten rubber insulated wiring that requires replacement and probably some other work as well. The good news is the line output transformer in this set was performing really well, and the tube is as new. I was quite shocked when I originally had this set and I put it on my CRT analyzer, and literally the needle swung right over into the green. Now, when that happens, normally it indicates that you've actually got a fault in the tube and you've got an internal short circuit, which is confusing the tester, but not in this case. This tube was absolutely fantastic, really bright and really pin sharp, but that was 9 years ago. So yeah, we've got some work to do. Now, first thing I've got to do is dealing with the line output transformer. Now, if you're in the States, you'd probably call this a flyback. As you can see, it's in a horrible condition. It works beautifully, but it probably won't work beautifully for very long in this condition. As you can see, it's insulated with a sort of pitch coating there. And we need to remove that and probably lacquer this. So the easiest way to remove this, by the way, you can see the EHT rectifier valve on that side just there. That's on some very delicate wiring, so we've got to be a bit careful. And also there is a very delicate wire just running in there, and that is the earthy end of the EHT winding. It's very fine. I've broken them before. Yeah, we don't want to be doing that. But first things first, we've got to remove that pitch from the outside of the transformer. My chosen method, a lot of people heat them up in ovens and things like that, but my chosen method is going to be to pickle it. So I'm just going to pop the transformer in, pitch end down, into this, what do they call that, a mason jar. And I'm just going to pop that there, and then I'm going to immerse it in white spirit. If you're in the States, I think you call this Woods alcohol. And it's particularly unpleasant. Don't put it in the drains when you're done, because it's not very nice stuff. It's the stuff that painters and decorators use for cleaning brushes and the like, and thinning paint. So I'm just going to pour that in there up to the sort of level. There we go. That is my line transformer immersed, certainly up to the level of the pitch. I'm going to close the lid. I will not leave that sealed down very tight. I'm just going to keep it there for a moment so I can show you. So there is our transformer, duly immersed, and yeah, I'm going to leave it in there for about a week. Right, while we're waiting for the line output transformer to pickle, I think it's time to get the set in bits and sort of refresh my memory as to where I got with it 9 years ago. You'll notice the knobs are missing here, by the way, but I've got them in a jar somewhere. We appear to have gained some paint on the top at some stage, but that should just clean straight off later on. And I seem to remember, yeah, if you look carefully there is a bit of a crack on there, but that's been there forever. So spin the set round, and yeah, right, so What have we got in the screw department? One is missing. This one here is missing. Sorry, the one on the top left. This one is intact. These two are missing. And if memory serves, it just folds out at the bottom. You do have to unscrew the knobs from underneath, which is probably why I never put the knobs back on last time, because I thought, well, it's not going to be long until I finish this set. 9 years later. So let's just take this screw out and drop it on the floor. I shall retrieve that in moments few. And yeah, are there any screws in the bottom here? This cardboard should just come straight out if memory serves. Ah, one screw there. Okay, that's going to be too long, isn't it? Let's just move the set back so I can get in there. Okay, second screw out of the many that are missing. We'll see if we can find some to fit in the others. Okay, so now we should be able to manoeuvre the case back off, minding we don't snap the focus lever. So there we go, from P.H. Goslin Company Limited, Riverside Works, Horn End in Buckinghamshire. Telephone, Bourne End. Telephone Bourne End 1036, 2 lines, Bush Radio Limited. Wonderful. So, here we have the set. Yeah. So, to remove the chassis, there should be 2 screws, and of course one is missing. Oh dear. One screw there, and both chassis will pull out together. This top chassis here contains the power supply and time bases, and this bottom chassis here is the RF deck. Here you can see our tuning. This is a BBC One only set. This is our aerial input here. I forget what these two are. I think they are brightness and contrast. This is our video output lead and should be attached to there with a little screw. Also missing. Disappointing. We've got all this rubber wiring. You can see that in there. It's just crumbling away. Let's get a zoom in on this camera over here. Where are we? We zoom in about there. You can just see the insulation is just falling to bits. Very unpleasant. This wiring needs to go. If you look over on this side, I'll come out a bit. We've got some mains wiring here, again in very, very poor condition. I did have this running like that. Right, so once the knobs are off, if you've one of these, the chassis should slide out. I don't know what that is. One other thing to know, notice, my tube base is rather loose. Let us not disturb that too much. We will deal with that later on. Ah, there is another screw. There is one in there, look. And that's why I'm making 0 progress. When I bought this set, I picked it up from a lady in Cleobury, Mortimer. Very nice place. Fixed a radio transmitter there once, many years ago. But I bought it off eBay many years ago. And she claimed that her father or grandfather was watching DVDs on it, quote, just a couple of years ago, unquote. He wasn't. It didn't work. There was no chance of it working, although it was very, very low hours. But yeah, she claimed it was in working condition. Yeah, she wasn't exactly telling me the truth. As you can see, we've got some new parts in here because I have recapped this set. This is where the line output transformer sits. There is a worrying blob of tar on there, but I do know it worked and worked really well. So also you can see some clean metal sort of here, and that is where the shield fits. And I've got the shield over there somewhere. So we will refit that once we are done. Right. Well, it's not too filthy. It's not great, but it's not too filthy. Just get it to pop out. The other thing to note is on these side panels down here are wooden, and they suffer terrible with woodworm. So let's be rather careful of the CRT as it comes out, and I shall lift the case clear. I think I'm running out of room here. Right. Oh, I should have done this the other way round. Do be careful when handling vintage CRTs. They are old, they are fragile. They are likely to go pop at any minute. Hopefully this one won't. Oh, I've made my life really difficult here. There we are. Okay, right, I am just going to dispense with the cabinet. So let's just have a look at this nasty, unpleasant rubber wiring that we've got to deal with. How much have we got? Right, this part at the front here, this is the power supply choke. It's fed from this rectifier here, and via this dropper resistor, which is probably why that wiring is cracked up. And you see it has a capacitor across it. It's called a swinging inductor. And actually, that wiring's pretty good. We've got this piece of wiring running across here to the lower chassis. So yeah. I think what I'm actually going to do is separate the two chassis and investigate what wiring goes where. Now there's a multi-plug. That's all going to need rewiring because it's horrible. So let's just ease that out of the socket. Be very careful. These are made from a sort of Paxilin material and are of some age. Right, okay, that's disconnected. The video is disconnected, so if I remove these two screws now, the RF deck, as it's called, should come out. Yep, there we go. And there is our RF deck, and it's filthy. Ooh, got bits falling all over it as well. We shall give this a clean in a moment, but as you can see, 9 years ago I'd been a busy boy and recapped it. So it does work, it just needs attention. So we'll probably come back to that. Now let's have a look at the TV chassis itself. So I'm going to pop this on its side that way, being very careful of the CRT tube itself. There we go. And again, you can see that in here I was a busy boy. Good Lord, there's an electrolytic left though. Tell me that's... Why have we got this hanging in midair? That's never good, is it? Right. Clearly we need some investigation. I suspect that might secure onto holes that deal with the line output stage. So yeah, okay. Right, we have some definite crusty wiring here. Yeah, so let's set about changing some of this wiring over. Right, little point of correction. I've lashed up a bit of a light in here. It's a bit narrow, but you could sort of get a better idea of what's going on inside the set. I made a mistake before. I said the rectifier was this big valve to the left of the chassis here. I lied, that's the sound output valve, I think. This is the rectifier. One half of it's the boost or efficiency rectifier, and the other half's the mains rectifier. Because I've just traced this first bit of wiring back I want to change, and this connects to the dropper down here. And then if you can see in here, it connects to this very crusty black wire on that tag there, and then goes up to a pin on the rectifier that's just up there. So I think what I want to do is I'm going to desolder from there. I'll probably snip that one temporarily. This one's been desoldered before because previously I would have removed this tag strip. Still don't like that, but hey. So I'm going to remove this, just remove that wire from there. And then I'm going to solder some wires on the end of there and pull them through. Now, the yeah, so we can just pull that through with a bit of luck. I'm hoping it doesn't break because the insulation's fragile, but the rest of it doesn't seem too bad, really. Now, you can buy the original rubber stuff. In fact, this is sort of made from it here that's driving the spot lamp. But I'm not going to use that because it's quite expensive. And I don't really have the need for it. So let me just untangle the soldering iron. I'm just going to disconnect this black lead. I'm going to use some PTFE wire, which I have plenty of. Right, that's the black. And then the red I'm going to snip, I think. Yeah, if I snip that from there, I wonder if I can get on it actually and desolder it. It would make a tidier job. Let's put a blob of fresh solder on there and see how we get on. I'll get in through the top. Right, it's got that joint wetted. Let's get a pair of pliers and see if we can get that red wire off intact. It's strange, somehow the red insulation hasn't suffered anywhere near as bad as the black. The green doesn't seem to have done very well though. There's some green about the place. This may well be PVC, you know. Oh, I got that off. Not quite. Oh, the insulation is just breaking up as I'm doing it. It's horrible stuff. That's got it. Okay. Right. Soldering on the stand has gone for Burton. Let's find some of the decent stuff. That's PTFE in black. PTFE in red. Lovely. Do you know, looking at that, that might actually be green. It might just be degraded. Anyway, let's solder a bit together and then we can drag it through. That way it will follow the original lines. Although I notice it seems to be a bit of a tangled mess in there. Still. Okay, so that's got that there. I'm just going to start easing it through. It's very crunchy. You can see the insulation is just falling apart here. Okay, so now I think the first thing to do is to remake these connections here. Lovely. Right, we can just pull that through a bit more. Perfect. And make with the red. I'll tidy that terminal up a bit. Doesn't look very good from here. You get my head in the way. That's good. Okay. Excellent. Okay. Just put that out of the way for the time being. Undoubtedly we shall need it again. I'm just going to move that back up there. And I'm going to tilt the set back on its top. And we'll deal with these connections to the voltage selector stroke dropper over here which look to me to be very much like sort of Lucar type connectors. So just for future reference, black is on J, red is on F. Okay, J and F. I think we can probably think about using some Lucars there. They look much the same, not quite original, but hey. I've lost our grommet as well out of the chassis, so maybe we should be replacing that. The actual grommet's in remarkably good, supple condition. It's not cracking up at all. Let's just refit the existing one then. Excellent. So I choose to cut those about there. And this is where I bet I've left the Lucar connectors in the garage. Bear with me one moment while I go and have a look. Right, I've returned from the garage with some very suitable little looking Lucar connectors. They just seem to be the job. You compare those to the originals. Very nice indeed. So I shall crimp those on. Alright. So that one goes to the top. That was J, and this one is the red lead. Good, it's all gone the right way around. The voltage sticker's obviously fallen off from there. I think there's a website where you can download, sort of print your own reproduction ones. Might be worth doing. Depends how far I want to go with this chassis really. Needs a clean, that's for sure, but yeah. Right, that's our first bit of mangy wiring dealt with. So, I wonder what happens next. Yeah, oh, that's tricky. Where the blazes does that live? I wish I'd paid attention last time. The wiring to the tube base, it's all very supple. That seems all right. What about the wiring to the scan coils? Yeah, that also seems very supple indeed. There is some wiring from the back of this dropper resistor here. That's a black one, so if anything's going to suffer, it'll be that one. It's very good. You'd think that would be absolutely baked in the heat. Now what you see down here, let me have a zoom in from the top. There's a wax capacitor there, that's the main suppression capacitor. And I snipped it out 9 years ago and never did anything with it, so we'll need another one in there at some stage. But yeah, that wiring is all good. I will check it on the other end of the chassis, but actually the top side of the chassis looking pretty good. This all needs a damn good cleaning out. So that's one crusty removed. Let's see what else we've got. So gently move the chassis over again, being very careful with the tube. You don't want one letting go, trust me. Right, where's my little lamp again? You just hang that in there, switch it on, here we go. So I can get a good look at any other wiring. So what have we got here? That is hanging out. So we can tighten that up while we're here. That's the on-off switch, I believe. And again, wiring is in very good nick. It's that loom that comes across from the top, of course. We've got some dead things in here we shall hoover out. That is the wiring to our tube base. That's from our Metrosil. A Metrosil is a sort of metal oxide rectifier thing, not quite, but it provides the first anode voltage in this set. There's a waxy here that is in fact replaced by that 2.2. It's just been left in there. I think for the sake of housekeeping, I might evict that in a minute. What else have we got? This wiring is all very nice. Yep, that's all good. So is that it for the top part of the chassis? We've still got that electrolytic hanging on this inductor. Where does that live? Yeah. So for the top chassis at the moment, I think we're pretty much done. That didn't take very long at all. So super news. Right, let us go and get the RF deck up here on the bench, and we'll start on that because that has got some nasty crusty bits. Right. Okay, so we've got to deal with this. First thing to do is to sort of separate the two. There are two conductors in here. One appears to be possibly coaxial, the other one appears to be some sort of cloth covered thing. I'm just going to snip these rubber sleeves off just to separate them and find out what's rotted away. And in fact, I'm not sure either of them have. Is this a coax? Oh, they're both cloth covered, they're just filthy. So what is that in there? That could be some sort of coax. Why would we have coax running to the time base from the receiver? Because video goes up that, and that certainly isn't screened. If I can trace it back through to under here. Just looking at this wire here, it looks all right. Let's cut the rest of those rubber sleeves off. I mean, this one is utterly breaking apart. There's no point cutting that off. So yeah, that is actually okay. The rubber wiring is in fact in good condition. So I've not really got much to do here. As you can see, it was recapped eight and a bit years ago, whatever. So yeah, we're pretty much in good shape. One thing I do need to do though is just to clean it up because it's filthy. So yeah, let's do that. Right, a microfiber cloth. Now I'm going to try and keep the valves in the position in which they're located in the chassis because when the thing was put together and aligned back in the 1950s, as long as these valves remain the same, they would have had minor differences that would have possibly been tuned out with the tuning of the chassis. So I don't want to upset that too much if I can avoid it. So we've got an EF80 there. Let's just clean some of this off the chassis. Now this set is a Mark II because it's got EF80s and a couple of EF91s in here. The earlier ones had octal valves in. Power of the microfiber cloth, that's doing really well. The beauty of not using something too aggressive on the valves is we keep their logos on them, we don't rub them off. Although this one is pretty much missing anyway, you can sort of see that in there. It's had most of it rubbed away. This one's made in Holland. I think that one's probably Dutch as well. The first one that came out was British. Look. I said EF91s. I was wrong, wasn't I? It's an EB91. Can you see that on there? EB91. Now, I don't know what this stuff is on here, but it's quite thick. It's either pitch or wax from a capacitor that's been disintegrating. So what was above it? Just having a look, see what was sort of above it. Sort of the tag strips. It's entirely possible a capacitor was leaking all over that for some period of time. Get the worst of it off and then try and soften it up a bit. Got a bit of IPA cleaner. Let's see if we can leave that to just soften that. That's definitely wax. It's been leaking from a capacitor that's failed, and I think it's probably that one there that has been replaced but still remains in the set. Obviously electrically very faulty. Well, that's a lot nicer now. So yeah, if we just give the top of these coils a bit of a scrubbing. Well, that's looking a lot more pleasant. Now to deal with this tag strip board at the end, I think I'm just going to employ the same method. A little scrub in there, just clean them up a bit. Now, that's looking much better. I'm just going to replace the valves. In fact, we'll give the sockets a quick squirt of Servisol or similar first. And replace the valves. Excellent. Right, I think the next stage is to have a look in our jar and see how our line transformer is getting on. Now, it hasn't been a week yet. It's been 3 days, but just look at the state of that stuff in there. So clearly it's, you can see bits floating around in there if I wind that up. So yeah, it's certainly doing something to the pitch. In fact, I wonder if I just open it and fetch it out. Yuck. Doesn't look very nice. I think I may just don a pair of gloves at this juncture. Let's just get it out and see what it looks like. Yeah, it's all coming off, look. We can see the original former, which is cleaning up nicely. So that is working really well. Yeah, it's certainly on its way. So another few days, I think, and we'll be ready to reassemble, or at least start to work on the line output transformer. Let me just wipe that up. And yeah, ooh, smell of white spirit. Most unpleasant. There we are. But yeah, that's doing its thing. I'll put that back over here. I'll leave it to cook a while longer. I'm not warming that up or anything, and to be honest, it's freezing in here, so it's not maybe going to be as quick as perhaps it should be, but also it takes down any problems with the venting of the white spirit, because obviously I've got the lid of the jar closed and I don't want any pressure building up in there, so I do check on it very regularly. But it's not, the temperature isn't varying in here at the moment, and it's freezing. Right, what to do next? I think it's time for a cup of tea. Right, well, one bit of good news. I've been and dug around and I found all the missing knobs, so that's good news. There's a load of screws and brackets and things in there, so we will come back to those later. What I do want to address is that capacitor. Now, unfortunately, I believe the service sheet for this is stored on my NAS, and I've currently got a problem with my NAS again. So, yeah. The other thing I've noticed is on the end of this choke, I've got a capacitor that's disconnected and a lead that's disconnected, so we will need to find out where they live. But just for now, I'm going to take off, in fact I think I'll just snip that out the way, so this will then swing down, I think, and I can get that capacitor out and we can find out what it once was and get it changed. So how can I get in there? I can get in there through there like that. There we go. Right, I'm just going to snick the tag off that end. There's another wire there. I suspect they all go to the line output transformer. And I believe in my ancient book of notes, I did write down with a real pen where that goes. There's a screw here that sort of takes the bracket out. Let's just see if we can remove that. It is coming out. There's a load of earths on there as well, grounds. Is that spinning a nut on the top? It is. Okay. Wonder if I have to take it all the way out, or there's enough room to just slide it out. Oh, it's stuck to the bracket. Or is it welded to the bracket? Maybe welded. No, it's coming out. Okay, what were you once? 16 microfarads at 350 volts. It's a TCC micropack electrolytic. Oh look, we got a date. How wonderful. October, you see that? October 52. Let's try the top camera. Yeah, there you go, look. October 52. Good Lord, all those years ago. "70 years. Good Lord. Right, let's just see if by any miracle it's actually any good. Analysing, open circuit, low capacitance. No real surprise there. I'm amazed that 8 years ago it was running at all. But there we go, it was probably just about working without it. So we want 16 microfarads at 350 volts or better. Right, where is my box of higher voltage bits? 16. This is looking a bit depleted in here, isn't it? 22, 470, far too big. 33's far too big, lots of 33's. What are these? 120, very much far too big. 15 mic, 450 volts. Look at their size difference. I say it every time, always amazes me. Right, so I think that's what we're going to have in there, but this may give us a mounting issue. So, right, one obviously connects to there, that's not much of an issue. And the other one, where does the other end go? And the other end actually goes to this tag here. Okay, so I think perhaps the best thing to do is just connect it to that tag for the time being, and then work out where that other red lead eventually lives when we've got that inductor back in. "1952. See, it's got a bulge on the end where it's been trying to vent. We've got a camera there. You see, it's got a bulge on it. Shot away, time for a new one. It did well. So I think what I'm going to do here is just put a bit of sleeving on there, a little bit of heat shrink, and solder that straight to that tag there, and just make a mental note of where it goes in a bit when it connects to the other end of the inductor. Now the inductor I think I removed to gain access to the line output transformer. So yeah, that's okay. Right, I want a little box of sleeving, which I have. Where's the really thin stuff? That'll do nicely, won't it? I could, of course, set about restuffing this capacitor, but looking at what I've done to the rest of it, I don't think it warrants it really. Though it would be quite sweet, I suppose, and it would, of course, maintain the date. I'll tell you what, let's dig it out and see how bad it is in there. I'm going to want a pair of gloves for this. I quite like that idea now I've talked myself out of it. It does make it a little more original, doesn't it? So, move the camera around a little. There we go, okay. And we'll move some cameras around so you can see what I'm doing. There we go, this one needs to come in a bit. And yeah, okay, so let's just pry away at this blister to start with and see if we can get anywhere. Yeah, you can see there's a hole in the top where that blister was, presumably to allow it to vent in slightly abnormal operation to stop it from exploding and generally spoiling your day. Let's try and pick away here. Right, now I've got thus far, I've managed to take all of the cap off this end. So what I'm actually now going to do is I'm going to drop this in some boiling water and try and soften the guts up, if you like, the inside up as much as possible, so we can do the corkscrew trick and hopefully extract it in one piece. So yeah, let's go and put this in some boiling water and see how far we get. Right, this has been in here for 15 or so minutes. We can sort of start to see the spiral structure. So the trick is to dig in there with the workshop corkscrew. I do not use this for opening bottles of wine. And see if we can extract the innards. Oh, this is going to go well, I think, because I can feel it all spinning round in there as it grips in. So, maybe not. There is another method. Let me just put that back in there to keep warm for a second. And that is to use a hefty wood screw that we can sort of drive in and then grab hold of it and pull it all out. Yeah, you can see it's just flopping around in there now. So let me just push this in. Yeah, oh, it's going to be a joy, this one. Right, oh, that's had it. So we can get that in there. Well, oh, it's easy. If only they were all that easy, I'd always read stuff. Ah, yuck. Right, drop that lot in there. There's some nasty stuff, paper and electrolyte floating around in there. Just get rid of all that. And clean out what remains as best we can. And we're going to have to deal with that end cap on the other end. We can just snip that out, I think. I've got a piece of foil stuck, which is the can connection for the negative side. Ah, he's coming. There we go. Well, that's come out quite nicely. I'm very, very pleased with that. So excellent. The next thing to do, I think, is to make some little 3D printed caps for around the end here. So we can sit those snugly in there and put our new connector for our new capacitor, which is going to sit inside just nicely on each end. I think that's the next step. Right, let's get on with that. I have 3D printed a little cap which fits nicely on there, and I managed to remove the end of that one without destroying it. I've just taken the tag off. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to swap soldering iron bits actually, because this one is horrible. Bear with me. Pop the big bit back in, switch the iron on. I'm just going to extend one of the leads on my cap because it sort of needs to be axial rather than radial. So lovely. Okay. I'm not worried about the ground lead touching the can, so I'm not gonna insulate it. I'm just gonna pop this end through my new cap. The hole's a bit big, but we'll come to that in a minute. So, alright, I'm going to solder one of these on the end, but I'm going to use it to sort of as a tag. So I want to lose the red insulated piece, and these normally come apart quite easily. This of course is going to be the exception to the rule because, you know, life. Oh, worked beautifully. So I'm just going to bend that up. It's about 90 degrees-ish on the edge of the bench here. Nearly happy with that, not quite, nearly. There. And you're going to put that through there, put the wire up in there, and just solder that on there. And that's going to make quite a nice little terminal for us. No good trying to solder with tinned copper wire. I've learnt these things over the years. Bit of flux on there. There we go. So that's soldered on there. And didn't let it cool enough, did I? Ugh. And now it's full of solder. Let's repeat the process. Do you know what? I'm going to solder that on before I bend it this time. Okay. Come back, you swine. Why didn't I choose the easy path and just solder that capacitor in? Okay. Oh, and I failed to put it through the loop this time. What am I thinking of? Oh, that's hot. Right, more tags. Have I got any more tags? Might have to go for a blue one. Go for a couple of blue ones. Right. I will get this right in a minute. Actually, these are a bit better because they're a bit longer. This satisfying squeaky noise getting these plastic bits off. Oh, that's much better. In fact, this time I may be able to just solder it round the bottom of the tag. Yeah, that's going to be a lot better actually. Yeah, it's much improved. So I come through there and just loop around the tag itself. That'll make it much easier to solder. Lovely. Okay. And now I'm going to sort of melt this into the top of my cap that I've made. So if I'm careful, I can use my decent tip and just warm up the tag, and it should just disappear in. It is, after all, 3D printer stuff. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. The tag's not in the perfect position, but it's not going to short out to anything, so I'm happy with that. Now the other end, I'm going to push through the lead, the hole in the bottom. and solder our tag on this end, on the other blue one, I'm just going to hold that together with a bit of universal sticky stuff for the time being. Let me remove this again. Excellent. Bend my tag over. This time I am going to thread it up the middle so I can sort of pull it a bit tight, because that's going to hold it all together temporarily. There. Okay, I'm not going to solder that just yet, or am I? Yeah, I think I probably will solder that now. Okay, that's holding it all in place. Cut off the excess. And then I want to run some super glue into that. I want to run some super glue into the other end as well. So I shall get some black super glue. Now, because we've got to solder to this tag, we want to get the super glue not where we want to solder, because super glue fumes are most unpleasant. If you've ever had that pleasure of trying to solder them, it's not very nice stuff. I think what happens is the super glue vaporizes and then sticks to your eyes. Nasty. Right, I choose some super glue activator. Okay, that should be stuck a bit now. I'll just remove this from the other end. It's blue tack. I'll repeat this at the other end and then sort of run a bead round that end cap in an attempt to seal it up. Okay. This super glue I use, people have asked me before what it is. It's RS's RT80 and it's quite viscous, so yeah. I'll try and run a bead around the end of my cap. In fact, yeah, no, we'll be alright. Trick is here is not to end up with super glue all over the bench. Okay, that's good. Put the lid back on with super glue. And there you have it. Still got our date intact October 52. I'm just going to leave that there to cure. Go and have another cup of tea. Excellent. Quite pleased with that. So all we've got to do is refit it now. So I'm just going to slide it back in under its little bracket. There she goes. I think. Yeah, we're getting that. There it goes. Tighten that screw up. Not forgetting the nut on the other side. That's good. Incidentally, our tube is also made in Holland, as well as a lot of the valves on the RF deck. Okay, so let's just tin up that connection to the ground. I'm going to leave, this is the one for the supply at the moment, I'm just going to leave that disconnected for the time being, because I want to get that line output transistor, the line output transformer back in place before I solder it back on, because otherwise it's just going to be flopping around in there. I imagine this is really difficult for you to see. Right. That's super. Yeah, I'm really pleased with that. Now, we need to address the elephant in the room, and that is this gargantuan capacitor down here, which is the main smoothing block from our rectifier. Now, 8 years ago, it seemed to be all right. The very least I'm going to do is take it out and see if we can reform it. So I'm just going to hook my makeshift light up out of the way, switch that off. We'll move things around a bit, come back directly and we'll fetch it out and have a look. Okay. Hi, it's Future Doz here, and I'm just editing this episode, and it's gone on for quite a while. Just to give you some idea, this TV set video, it's taken just over a month to do so far, and I'm not finished yet. So I'm going to cut this episode here. Thanks very much for watching, but come back next week when we'll get the cat reformed and do lots of other wonderful things. Until then, click like, subscribe, do all that rubbish, and I'll see you very soon here on Doz's Television Workshop. Cheers now, bye.